More recently, we've been looking at trust and betrayal in relationships, and I want to talk some about why. There's a lot of couples that we see, and we try to teach them to be like the masters and try to understand how they've gotten into these stuck places in their relationship. And maybe we're too late for some couples, too much water under the bridge. We know the average wait time from the time somebody notices that there's a real problem in their relationship to when they get any kind of help is 6 years. That's a long time. But maybe there's something else going on that we're missing in being able to help couples. Okay, so we can help about 70 to 75% of couples, and they stay changed after our therapy or our workshops. But what about the other 25 to 30%? And how do we deal with this problem of a lot of couples relapsing after treatment, not using these skills, not really, even though they know what to do, not doing it? Well, as we did focus groups around the United States, at every social class level and ethnic and racial group in the United States, as we wound up being involved in the administration of children and families, looking at relationships, particularly for couples about to have a baby. And we found also in our work with the Army, looking at soldiers who are deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan, we've been doing that for the last 2 years, that trust and betrayal was the #1 issue. And as I started looking at this, I went back and looked at all the conversations in these new relationships that we started studying in Seattle a couple of months after the wedding. And just about all the conflicts were about trust. And you can think of there being a fan that opens up, where every region of the fan is a different area of trust. That would describe all of our conflict discussions. Can I trust you to be there for me when I'm upset? Can I trust you to listen to me when I'm upset? Can I trust you to choose me over your mother? Can I trust you to work for our family? Can I trust you to choose me over your friends? Can I trust you to not take drugs and go back to those bad habits? Can I trust you to not cheat on me? Can I trust you to be sexually faithful? Can I trust you to respect me, to help with things in the house, to really be involved with our children? All of these were issues that couples were working on in the first couple of years of their relationship. So trust appears to be very interesting and very important, but how do we define it? What is trust? And what are its dynamics? And betrayal we generally think of as some critical event, like an affair that's revealed in a heterosexual relationship. But are there dynamics to betrayal? Is there something that we can point to so we can understand this process? How do you measure these things? How do you establish them? So by measuring stuff, then you get a recipe for changing it, right? So because Bob and I were measuring the differences between the disasters and the masters, when you measure it, you can define it, and then you can tell people how to change it, because you know what it is. So, trust is one of the most common words used in the English language. It's number 949. And when I went to Amazon.com and typed in trust, I was surprised that there were 36,000 books available. Now, a lot of these were on, trust used in business. How do you set up a trust? But most of them were really about trust in relationships and trust in general. On PsycInfo, which is the database that psychologists use and sociologists use to do a lit review, there were 96,000 references to trust. Now, commonly, when we think about trust, we're really thinking about dependability, honesty. Dependability is not enough, by the way. I can trust you to always be evil. That doesn't quite work, right? I have to trust you to be moral. I have to trust you to care about me. And it's turned out that actually when social psychologists have asked people in relationships, what is the most desirable quality you're looking for in a partner when you're dating? Trustworthiness is #1. Interesting, huh? I mean, it's not, being sexy or attractive. It's really being able to trust somebody. How do you build trust? Again, you can turn to research because research is going to tell you specifically what it is that increases this trust metric and what it is eventually that helps us understand the dynamics of betrayal. Okay. Turns out that trust is built in very small moments, which I call sliding door moments, after the movie Sliding Doors. Because in any interaction, there's a possibility of connection with our partner or turning away from our partner. Let me give you an example of that from my own relationship. So one night I was really wanting to finish a mystery novel. I thought I knew who the killer was, but I wanted to really find out. So I put the novel on my bedside and I walked in to the bathroom. And before I even got into the bathroom, I looked at my wife's face in the mirror and she looked sad. She was brushing her hair. So there was a sliding door moment. I had a choice. I could kind of sneak out of the bathroom and think, I don't want to deal with her sadness tonight. I want to read my novel. Now that really wouldn't define our relationship any, but because I'm a sensitive researcher of relationships, I decided to go into the bathroom. I took the brush from her hair and I said, "What's the matter, baby?" She told me why she was sad. Now, that moment, I was building trust. I was there for her, right? I was connecting with her rather than choosing to think only about what I wanted. These are the moments that we've discovered that build trust. Now, one such moment is not that important, but if you're always choosing to turn away, then trust erodes in the relationship, very gradually, very slowly. And the next slide, you can see this idea of attunement is really the mechanism that my graduate student, Dan Yoshimoto, discovered is the basis for building trust. And attunement stands for this acronym of awareness of the other person's emotion, turning toward the emotion, tolerance of two different viewpoints, going for understanding the partner, responding non-defensively, and responding with empathy. The discovery in the research is that betrayal and distrust are not related to each other very strongly. In other words, betrayal is not the same as distrust. And we usually think of it as related. But the atom of betrayal is not just turning away from my wife's sadness in that moment, but doing what Carol Rusbult called a CL alt. And you can see that on the third line. And what that means is I not only turn away from her sadness, but I think to myself, I can do better. Who needs this crap? I'm always dealing with her negativity. I can do better. Carol Rusbult spent 3 decades studying this variable, CL alt. Because once you start, it stands for comparison level for alternatives. And once you start thinking that you can do better, then you begin a cascade of not committing to the relationship, of trashing your partner instead of cherishing your partner, of building resentment rather than gratitude, of lower investment in the relationship, less dependency for getting your needs met, not sacrificing for the relationship, and escalating conflict so it becomes an absorbing state.